So, there's a bit of breaking news here. We might want to get to it. Jesus. Man. You know what? We should probably get to this. All right, so let's get to it. We'll put I'm sorry for teasing the stuff about Adesanya. We will get to that throughout the course of today's show. This is pretty big. TJ Dillashaw, of course, your former UFC bantamweight champion, has accepted a 2-year sanction from USADA after testing positive for a prohibited substance. Dillashaw, 33, tested positive for recombinant human erythropoietin. I think that's how you pronounce it, or EPO, as the result of an in-competition urine sample he provided on January 18, 2019. rHuEPO, or EPO, is a synthetic hormone used to stimulate the body's production of red blood cells, thereby increasing oxygen transport and aerobic power. It is a prohibited substance in the class of peptide hormones, growth factors, related substances, and mimetics under the UFC Anti-Doping Policy, which has adopted the World Anti-Doping Agency Prohibited list. That is a backbreaker for his career. Now, that is not necessarily the end of his career. In fact, I'm quite certain it's not the end of his career, but that is bad. That is very, very bad for him. That is a major blow to the amount of money he can earn. It's a major blow reputationally. It's a major blow to his professional ambition, for his ability to probably do other things related to occupying the title, which, you know, accrue sponsors or notoriety or that kind of a thing. It has a major detriment on professional ambition. Here's the funny part about that. EPO is the weirdest thing to test positive for, because a lot of drugs that a person could take for performance enhancement can't really be replicated by other means, or at least couldn't be replicated to the same extent by other means. That's not entirely true, but that's a general rule of thumb. EPO is one of the few things that can be replicated in terms of similar levels of change to the body and the performance one could derive from it merely through technology or high-altitude training. There's extensive documentation that EPO, if done correctly, you ever seen these like hypoxia, what I think they're called, hypoxia tents. BJ Penn was sleeping in them for a while. A lot of fighters sleep in them. It's designed to do the same thing that EPO does, or extensive high-altitude training. It's designed to do things to your blood that EPO would otherwise do. Now, I don't know what Dillashaw's explanation is going to be, whether it's a, hands up, you got me scenario, or there's some other kind of explanation. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to say, but for him to accept it and then move on, boy, that is a backbreaker. That is a backbreaker for his career. Wow. Here's the funny part about it. There's going to be fighters in the UFC, maybe even this weekend, who use these kinds of tents to simulate a high altitude, or the ones who spend the kind of money to go to Big Bear, who are going to get similar or at the same level of benefit that EPO, that particular form of doping could provide. And yet it's all that part of the game is perfectly legal, which is a weird thing to test positive for. Why don't we do this? Why don't we open up the phone lines to reaction to this? 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. Man, yeah. What do you guys have to say about TJ Dillashaw? 2-year suspension. He's 33 years old. He won't be back till what is his birthday? Let's see. Because he might even be 36 if his birthday is coming up soon. So his birthday is February, so no. So he'll be 35 by the time he comes back as a bantamweight. That is not a great age for that kind of a division in terms of competitive hope, right? There's a reason why you see heavyweights go late into their careers, part because the talent isn't as deep, and also in part because athletic reflexes, while beneficial, and speed and things like that, while beneficial, they're not as reliant upon them in that division as you would be in something like bantamweight, where speed, reflex, explosion, they're really, really not merely helpful. I mean, it's helpful in any division, I suppose. Helpful in any sport, probably. But essential, right? Like if you're got a game where and think about Dillashaw's game where he's switching his feet and creating angles and then throwing shots. You need that speed and that bounce and that shift and that force production. You need a lot of that. And if you don't have that because you've gotten a lot older, now granted, there won't be a lot of wear and tear on his body, but because he won't be competing. But nevertheless, just the process of aging, I'm telling you, 33 for me to 35, and certainly I'm no athlete, so this is just anecdotal, wasn't as much of a drop-off as 35 to 37, but 33 to 35 was definitely a drop-off. Like you could feel your body and your biology changing. So it was much worse after that. And again, a lot of folks talk about the time off being beneficial for them in certain capacities. I believe that too. But this is bad. This is really, really bad for him. This is bad for what he was trying to do for his career. This is bad for his image. This is bad. Because this was a guy who I think we were all saying, well, maybe it was Dominick Cruz. No one really knew. Or no one could say for absolute certain. But here's what you could say for some kind of certainty. Wasn't he on his way to becoming the best bantamweight ever? Wasn't he on his way to becoming the guy who was the gold standard in that weight class? Wasn't he the guy who was turning a corner in terms of his own popularity in that division? I think that he was. I think you can make a pretty clear case that he was. So I would love to get your reaction to this. What does this tell you about his career? What does this tell you about what your views are on what kind of job USADA's doing? What does this tell you about your feelings about TJ? About anything, any element of this, I would love to hear it. 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. TJ Dillashaw accepting a 2-year sanction. Cobb, I'll go to you first on this one. He'll be 35 when he returns. What is your immediate reaction to this?
It's hard to think anything other than what you said. Total backbreaker. Dude, I guess my initial reaction is, man, what a reversal of fortune this year has been for TJ, man. It's to start the year kind of on top of the world, chance to win 2 titles, then you lose the belt, you test positive, and now 2-year ban. I can't think of anything like this before, where someone started off 2019 so well, and then we're 4 months in, and it's gone about as bad as it can go for him.
I would love to have a greater examination. They got him on a urine test. That is super interesting that they got him on something like that, or that, again, they detected something as a consequence of that. Usually these kinds of things have to be discovered by more sophisticated means, like biological passport inconsistencies, although that can be tricked as well. By the way, here's what this tells me, if in fact he's guilty. Dude, MMA fighters are so bad at cheating. It's funny. Do you remember this? Again, maybe he's got some explanation, but he's accepted the sanction. But do you remember, we talked about it on this show, the doping ring that was caught recently in Europe, right? The cycling doping ring was the same thing as the blood doping ring. Urine tests couldn't get these guys. Blood tests couldn't get these guys. The biological passport couldn't get these guys. Snitching got these guys. Like, the cyclists are so much better at hiding this kind of thing, I guess in part because they've got more practice at it. The MMA fighters just don't have a whole lot of smarts about these, or best practices or traditions about this kind of thing, that they're not as easily able to put it away. I suspect that will change over time. That's just my opinion, but we'll have to see. But yeah, that is a bizarre and crazy and interesting turn of events. He was riding a high, man. You want to talk about great streaks? He had some great streaks, and he had some great wins. So now it makes me wonder, who is the best bantamweight of all time? It's still got to be Dominick Cruz. Who has done the best work in that division. Now, you could say, well, it's complicated, right? Because I've given John Jones a pass as the greatest light heavyweight, but he never accepted a sanction for performance enhancement. He went to the mat to deny that there was any involvement there. And you'll recall the first time John Jones got in trouble with USADA, it was for things that are used in, again, he says it's from a gas station dick pill, but even USADA agreed that particular thing had no enhancement benefit, but was banned because it has other purposes, typically associated with post-cycle therapy. Then his second run-in, it was at such a low level that USADA said, well, we don't know how it's there, number one, and two, whatever's there is sort of remnant stuff. And I guess he has gotten some kind of a pass. Plus, he was tested like a criminal in his last fight, and he went out there and, beat Anthony Smith without a terrible degree of difficulty. So, I don't know. It's going to be a complicated debate. But if you are one of these people who's very much a hardliner on some of these issues, and again, we can have this conversation over time, it would probably make Dominick Cruz. Again, it was never really clear that he wasn't, but in terms of Cruz, but now that you have this situation thrown into the mix, it probably puts the onus back, or I should say not the onus rather, but the title, so to speak, the merit back in his position as the best bantamweight of all time. Boy, what a stunning turn of events, huh? What a stunning turn of events for this guy. Shame that they're going to be not having Marlon Moraes fight another bantamweight to figure out what they were going to do with this guy's title, but nevertheless, here we are. What is your reaction to this news? 877-FIGHT-93, 877-344-4893. TJ Dillashaw accepting a 2-year suspension for EPO, and he won't be back till he's 35 years old. 35, man. 35 for something where you can derive many of the same, if not identical, benefits from technological aids. That's a weird one. That's a weird one to go down for. That's a very weird one to go down for. Let's go to the phones here if we can. Eric is in Colorado. Hi, Eric.
How you doing, Luke?
Good. How are you?
I feel dumber for having heard this news. My question to you, I mean, this is nothing new. We've seen people make dumb mistakes. But can you, off the top of your head, think of anybody that has recovered from not just popping at this age, but being such an a-hole the entire time while he was prospectively using? Anybody in your mind fit into that category?
Well, they're all like that, aren't they? I mean, how many of these people are sheepish and meek while they're on these runs from, name anybody who was using in any sport who eventually got caught. Before they got caught, were any of them sheepish? Was Lance Armstrong sheepish? Was Ben Johnson sheepish? Like, all of them. Well, this is the part. I mentioned this before. Two things, right? Doping is a first world problem. Other countries don't have the resources to really combat these kinds of things. It really only is a thing that you worry about in the first world. And second of all, there are a lot of cultural differences too, where some of these sort of second, third world countries, they just don't see it as that big of a deal. So when they get caught, they have to answer for first world sanctions at a time when this is something they don't ordinarily consider to be a problem. But that attitude extends even across. Alex Rodriguez, was he sheepish before he got caught? Like, Manny Rodriguez or whatever, Ryan Braun, all these guys are like this.
Well, I mean, outside of MMA in particular, like all those big league sports, first off, they have a union to protect them, and probably somebody to tell them to shut up along the way. But now, point noted, and I really can't think of anybody else that comes to mind. So I'll hang up and see if if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. 877-FIGHT-93. Let's go to Cody in Baltimore. Hi, Cody.
Hey. So my thought is this, and I think I heard either you guys talk about it or somebody else a while ago. But with TJ specifically, it's not even like it was steroids. This is something, to me, that you can do it naturally. I don't even know why they're dinging him.
Because because the idea is that it's fine if you have technological aids that can mimic some of this. It's not fine, or the money and the resources to afford high-altitude training consistently over time to derive benefits from this. It's not fine if you use some kind of a drug, which to me is a incoherent way of defining what advantages are unfair and fair, but it's the system we've inherited.
It makes sense. I mean, even though technically a drug is a technology. But, even, I think it was you guys who were talking about it before, when they pulled in USADA, it was because everyone was worried about steroids and long-term damage to people getting hit. And, knockouts and stuff haven't gone down. They're just as brutal as they've always been. So there's really not even a big change. So I think some of these hits, especially with this, is negligible. And that's just my thought, and I'll take yours off the air.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Cody. It's hard to say. We don't have enough information to draw a bold and firm conclusion. But if you want to train at high altitude consistently over time because you can afford a Big Bear camp, you can do that. If you want to buy these kinds of tents that are designed to mimic some of the same, and again, EPO is one of the few things that you can get at a similar level from drug use as you can from technological aids. That's not true for a lot of other drugs. That's a weird one to go down for, man. That's a weird one to go down for. Let me circle back to something. I'm going to mess with the show rundown because that's just what I do. I'm going to send you something, Cobb, and I want you to hear the audio. I'm going to send this to you right now, okay? I'm going to send it to you on GChat. All right? Someone sent this to me. I didn't just dig this up.
Okay.
Someone sent it to me. Do you see what I sent you? It's a tweet.
Okay.
Now, it's an old tweet. This tweet is from 2017.
Yep.
Ahead of UFC 217, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first fight between Garbrandt and Dillashaw?
Yes.
I believe because that was the one in New York City.
Yeah, because they were both super mouthy at that time.
Yeah, they were very, very lippy with one another. Here's the headline from the tweet I'm about to send you. See, let me know when you're ready to play the audio. Here's the headline. Cody Garbrandt accuses former teammate TJ Dillashaw of using EPO. This is what he said. Said he lost respect for him because he's using special supplements, blah, blah, blah.
Ready to go.
TJ Dillashaw responded later on. This is what Cody had accused him of saying, or said to him.
One of the accusations made at TJ was the fact that he'd taken some special supplements.
Oh, yeah, the guy's on everything.
Yeah.
He's on everything.
TJ?
Yeah, I'm on everything. They test me every day, so I'm on everything.
Funny, you're the one that showed everyone how to do it on Team Alpha Male.
Yeah, I'm the one that's now bringing it in. Yeah.
Look at him. He has nothing to say.
Rose.
That's it.
All right, so here's another one. This is from April of 2018. No S. I'm talking about the March fight, and then you said you were hurt. Must be all that EPO going to your head. Have a safe camp. See you in August. And then, they both took shots at each other. Erythropoietin, or EPO, is a hormone that stimulates the production of red blood cells. How does that help fighters? This is from your red blood cells work like magnets in relation to the oxygen you take in. Part of your red blood cells contain hemoglobin, an iron molecule that binds to the oxygen. The more red blood cells your body produces, the more oxygen your body can hold. This is why it's so popular and critical in endurance sports like cycling. As I mentioned before, that doping ring in, I think it was in Austria and Norway. Or it was in Norway, but it had fighters from all over the area, I suppose. They beat the biological passport, and they beat all the testing, including blood testing. It was just snitching that got them. I'm still sort of blown away by all of this, of all the things to get caught for, via urinalysis, no less. That is crazy. That is really, really kind of crazy to me. We'll talk about this a little bit later with Paulo Costa, because it turns out that he might have been totally innocent of some of the accusations made about him. Now, certainly there are a number of rumors and speculation about what he has done or not done, or assumed beliefs about what he has done or not done. I just want to make a point. This is where I am in this whole journey personally. Folks have decided that in every other walk of life we have over-criminalization, and then the war on drugs doesn't work. Here's what's happened in the war on doping. Over time, punishments have escalated because at each level that they get raised, it's ultimately seen as insufficient to deter. So punishments were not always 4 years or lifetime bans. They used to be nothing like this at all. In fact, it didn't happen until around 2014, 2015 that they got bumped from 2 to 4 years, and again 4 to 8, or 8 to a lifetime ban. It all depends on a various series of factors. And I'm not here to stump for my positions. I'm merely to tell you where I think this is all headed. Personally, this is just I am very certain about all of this. Every time we reach a new level of punishment, so let's say 6 months to a year to 2, 2 to 4, it's always seen that increase is going to be the thing that really helps us turn the corner in combating the problem. And this is not me making this up. In fact, I'll show you this. Every time this happens, it's the very people themselves that say we need tougher policies in order to effectively combat the issue. So every time they raise it, it's the very people who believe in anti-doping that say these current measures are insufficient. And what you're beginning to see in parts of Europe, this has already happened. As I mentioned before, legislation has already been introduced in Congress. Nothing has passed nor signed, but certainly been introduced. The next stage of all of this is the criminalization of it, right? And how fast and how far we go with that, I don't know. That's really hard to say. Will the punishments in France be the same as they are in Spain, as they are in Canada, as they are in the United States? God only knows. But that is the next stage of all of this. Could be years before we get there, but that's the stage. And then once we get there, I think that will end up helping us understand better what we really want to do about it, because folks actually still believe if you just keep playing whack-a-mole with this, you'll eventually whack all the moles. And if that doesn't work, we'll just get a bigger hammer. So we are headed towards a path of criminalization. How fast, how soon, how much, hard to say. The Rodchenkov Act is the one that's currently been introduced in Congress, and that would not necessarily throw all the athletes in jail, but it would throw suppliers. It would not throw professional athletes like MLB or NFL, but it would on the International Olympic side. But that's just the first measure. This could go and escalate from there. So my personal belief is whatever your views on doping are, if you're against doping in sports, be against doping in sports. I would just humbly submit the path we're headed on is that one, is criminalization. And then once we're there, I think that would the dire situations that would set up will probably help us flush out where we want to go with this, depending on what kind of harms are created from there. Y'all know my opinion on this whole thing, but I legitimately think no matter what, that's where we're headed, because I just keep seeing the same pattern over and over again. Let's raise the punishment. That didn't work. Okay, let's raise them again. Okay, that didn't work. Let's raise them again. Okay, well, what's left? You know, the only thing left really is criminalization to some degree. So I think that's where we're headed. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel. There's other videos you can watch right here. If you've never heard my SiriusXM radio show, there's a link in the description box below. You can try it for free for 30 days. The Luke Thomas Show airs weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Fight Nation, Channel 93. Catch y'all next time.